And I also regret not, standing up for Taylor sooner rather than later, because I think a lot of it could have been put to an end.
Has there been anything that you've learned over the last 12 hours that surprised you?
Yeah, this whole leftover alliance had me in shock. I knew there was something going on because I knew Turner wouldn't make a move like that without having backup. But man, I could not put the pieces together, and it kept me up all night trying to figure out like who was working with Turner and who was trying to get me out. So figuring out who was in that alliance definitely shocked me, considering half of them were in one of my alliances.
Yeah. So who are you feeling, I guess, most betrayed by right now?
I think Monty, because he was someone that I trusted in the Pose Pack Alliance, and he had come to me for a final 2 the very first week. So I always thought that we had each other's back, and I was consistently defending him when the girls wanted to bring him up on the block. I'm like, no, we don't want to take out Monty now. And so I felt like, I was pulling a lot for him, and I expected more from him in the end.
Fair. I think you're going to get this question a lot today, but so the first alliance that you had was the Girls Alliance. And I think a lot of fans were confused because Taylor was excluded, and obviously a girl's girl wants to include women. So I guess what is your kind of reaction to that, and why Taylor was like not involved with that alliance?
Yeah, so it wasn't just Taylor, but Nicole was never in that alliance.
Oh, true.
So it's 2 of them. And the reason was because they were just hanging out with the guys the entire time. They didn't talk to us. And so we were afraid, this was like the very beginning. So we were afraid that they were already working with the guys in the house. And so we didn't want to, like, they were be upstairs playing bumper pool, just them. And so we were afraid to bring them in if they were working with the guys, because we didn't want them to come in and like take intel from us and give it back to the guys. So that was like how it all started in the beginning.
Got it.
And we tried to change, we wanted to change our name, but we never actually got around to it.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about Taylor, because again, I think you're going to get this question a lot. So it's good to talk about it. Turner mentioned in his speech, like dogpiling on Taylor. Looking back, I guess, can you see how that kind of happened? I know, you didn't say some great things about Taylor. You guys weren't like best friends or anything like that. But was there something specific that she said or did that made you like not like her?
Yeah. Honestly, there was no reason to dogpile on her. She definitely did not deserve that. I have to admit that there was definitely some things that I said, as well as other people in the house, that probably shouldn't have been said. As far as like dogpiling on her, it was in the beginning, it was because she said a lot of snarky things to people, is how we perceived them. So a lot of things were like said under her breath, and honestly, they weren't that bad at all to deserve that. But like, we were just like be gathering, oh my gosh, she said this. Oh my gosh, she said this. And it kind of became like, this thing is like, oh my gosh, we cannot trust her. She keeps saying all these things. And so that's kind of how it started. And then like, she would tell certain people, like she would tell me who she wanted to take out, but then she would tell, one of my friends, somebody else. And so we came into this mindset, like we could absolutely not trust her from that point.
Okay. Do you think it went beyond the game or too far sometimes? Not even with you, but just with anyone, of like, okay, maybe like we should give the girl a chance. Like we're kind of being like a little much.
Absolutely. So in the beginning, it was kind of just like, we're in this game right now. And like, we were strategizing and we're just trying to be careful with everybody. And like, if anybody does anything, we automatically just didn't trust them. But as it went along, some people that I would hear them saying more inappropriate things. And so at one point there was a blow up, and I had to start, saying things to people like, I think that it was inappropriate of, where this was going. It started off small, but like it just kept snowballing, and a lot of people were, saying things that probably shouldn't have been said. So yeah, definitely some things, definitely shouldn't have been said, should have been handled in private, even through a private conversation.
Yeah, it seems like no one came to her defense when Daniel was like going off on her the other day.
Oh, I did. Oh yeah, I 100% did. So I actually called him out on it in the HOH room. I defended her, and I actually went and talked to her one-on-one about it to make sure that she felt okay. And I told her that that was inappropriate, and that she can talk to me at any time. Like I can turn off the game switch, because I knew immediately that that was wrong. So I did tell Daniel about it. And I told Nicole that she misunderstood what Taylor said, because I was actually in the room for the original statement. And so I made sure that I went, because that one I witnessed. There was a lot of things that was like hearsay in the house, but that one I was actually there for, and I saw what happened, and I think they did not take it the way that Taylor had intended.
Right. I do want to talk about the cookout because I think we've heard you say different things. I know in the beginning you were like, you said something like, though, they kind of set me up for failure. And then when you were on the block, you were like, now I understand why the cookout was formed. Where do you kind of stand, I guess, on that? And why did your opinion change when you were on the block versus when Taylor was on the block?
My opinion changed consistently about the cookout through the experience. So entering the house, before I even entered the house, I was automatically afraid that people would be afraid of another cookout. I didn't want to be the first to be taken out. And because of this cookout that ended the last season. And so even coming to the house, I was afraid to talk to other people of color initially, because I was like, I don't want people to think that there's a cookout. Now, when there was two people that were put on the block in the beginning. And I actually said something to Paloma. I said that I was like, I can't believe there's two people of color on the block. And like, if you guys keep doing this, I'm probably going to be next. And she took that, immediately and took that to Daniel. So I would say that I was pretty consistent about the fact that it was weird to have, just keep putting people of color up immediately from the very beginning. And then when I was put on the block, I felt like, so I had talked to Taylor the day before about it. And she told me that they're coming for strong women of color. Me and her sat alone outside, and she told me that. And then the next day I was put on the block, and that's when I was like, holy cow, is Taylor like onto something? Because I'm so confused right now why me and Terrence are on the block.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you're very smart women. I think when you get out of the house, you're going to see some conversations, which are important conversations that are brought up from the show. One of them being something like colorism, which we're not talking about a lot. Can you see how maybe Taylor's experience, even as, another person of color, was different from yours, if that makes sense?
So Taylor's experience of colorism, if that's what she experienced, I'm not sure, because she never actually talked to me about colorism. I think it's definitely valid. I would love to talk to her about it. While I did have a different relationship with people in the house than her, we both entered the house completely differently. I'm not saying colorism happened or it didn't happen, but she came in and directly wanted to talk to the guys and stuck with them. And I immediately went into the house only talking to the women. And so the women automatically trusted me and wanted to talk to me, whereas we automatically assumed that she was just working with the guys. And so I think that played a big role. However, if colorism was happening, I definitely would love to talk to Taylor directly about that if she felt that way. I wasn't, aware of that.
But yeah, I know Julie brought this up and she's like, Ameerah, why did you say the game was easy? And, I do want to ask, why didn't you campaign to stay? Did you really think, okay, I have it over Terrence, I don't need to campaign?
No, I felt like I did campaign. Apparently I didn't campaign hard enough. But so I had two alliances, one with the girls and one with Postpack. The only people who weren't in those alliances were Daniel, who I campaigned with a lot, Turner, who obviously I didn't have much to say to, Joseph, who I also campaigned with a lot. I talked to Joseph every day. So when I talked to Postpack, they'd be like, oh, you're good. We got your back, because that was my alliance. And then for the girls, I knew I didn't need to campaign with them as well, because we always talked game every single day. We talked about me staying in the house. And so I felt like I did campaign, but obviously didn't.
Who would you say of the Leftovers alliance was the best actor? Who were you fooled by the most? Was it Monty or?
There's some good actors in there. I would say Monty, Kyle, Joseph. Those are the three. But Monty and Kyle, I think that those are the two strong ones that had me fooled. And then Joseph. So all three of them.
Any conversations you wish you had, or anything, any regrets the last few days? Anything you wish, or I wish I would have done that?
I wish that I would have talked to Taylor more from the beginning. I started feeling better about her maybe a week ago. I started feeling more comfortable because I started having more one-on-one conversations with her that weren't game related. So I wish that I had more conversations with her and others that were just personal, getting to know each other, one-on-ones versus just going straight into it and wanting to talk game. And I also regret not, standing up for Taylor sooner rather than later, because I think a lot of it could have been put to an end had I been more aware of the situation and conversations that were happening in other rooms and, how it was going to be building up into this big escapade.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in there, you're just it's kind of like a mob mentality, right? Like
Yes.
one thing, somebody says something and everyone else follows it.
You're right. And, you know, like we're in this house nonstop and we're just every week, we're just trying to pick on one person to take out. And so once we kind of like the house agrees on one person, it definitely builds into this mom mentality where it's like, all right, get them. But I do think that me and Taylor could have been strong. Again, it comes back to, I was still afraid to like get close to too many Black people. I know that sounds terrible, but I was just so afraid of what the Cookout had completed last season that I was afraid coming into this, that was going to be something that people were on the lookout for.
Interesting. Okay. What are you interested in playing Big Brother again? How do you feel about your experience now that you're outside the house?
Sharon, I had the time of my life. I would do it all over again. It was so fun. I loved every aspect of it. I love the game. I love the challenge. I love getting to know all these different peoples from different walks of life. And it was amazing. I loved it.